All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another video. It's been a while since I've done any. I've just been like super busy working on my music project. There is a lot of, well, like I said before, actually, many months ago, even like the music itself is mostly done, but it's just doing the trailers that takes a lot of time. Because initially, like it started out as a pretty small project, but you know me, I'm kind of a minimalist actually, but the thing is like today because we have AI, it gives you opportunities to do something that you maybe weren't planning on doing before. For example, there are definitely some parts of the video where it wasn't in it initially, but I'm like, but hold on, I have AI video creation tools which can fill some gaps, and and that's how the project becomes bigger basically. And there's more voiceover. Also, like the voiceover that I use is actually not English. I mean, sure, I write in English, the script is in English, but then like it's converted into two different languages so far. One of them is kind of a demonic language. The other one is more kind of just yeah, like an alien foreign language, let's say. So yeah, there's just a lot of work that goes into it. And well, the first video is out already. The second one was supposed to be out this weekend, but unfortunately I decided to add something at the end, and I need to wait a bit to do that. So maybe next week it will be done. Maybe like the weekend of next week, hopefully. Anyway, today's video, that's it for the updates anyway. So today's video, I wanted to focus talking about teaching contracts in Japan. So I think like there's still a lot of people actually who are interested in being teachers and they want to come here, or some of them maybe looking to come to Korea or China or other countries. I mean, look, it's not limited to just these three. You can go teach in Indonesia if you want to, but the salary obviously is going to be much lower. So you have to be prepared for that. It's true that the cost of living is also lower, much lower, but the salary, like, you have to be careful because what I mean is, let's say you come from America, right? You're going to Indonesia for 1 year. Maybe in Indonesia you'll be like, okay, maybe you'll have enough money for there. But the thing is, like, once you go back to the States, whatever you earned in Indonesia is gonna basically be like paper money. It's gonna be nothing. So you have to be like, you have to think about that, you know. Same for China, by the way. China doesn't pay. It just doesn't. Look, I was there. I was getting paid less than $1,000 a month, and again, in China, that's okay. But once you return to the States or Canada or whatever, uh, it's not a lot of money. It's just not. Well, especially, I mean, like, yeah, you get 1,000, but of course, from that you have to pay like utilities, etc. So it's not like, of course, really 1,000. Maybe like if you save actively, maybe you can get like 500 a month or something, which is not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. But anyway, today I want to specifically focus on Japan because I was actually looking for that for years. I'm not lying. Um, I was looking for this file for years. I have no idea where it was because, like, I've changed my, like, Windows has been upgraded many times and files have moved around, and I just didn't know where it was. And recently I was cleaning up the computer. I was going through the folders and I found it. I found my initial contract. That's what I was looking for. So today, what I will do, and of course, I can't mention all the information because, well, I don't want to get sued. I don't work for them, by the way. I mean, I quit in 2013, in the middle of 2013. So, but like these type of companies, they like to sue for defamation. Even if you're right, it doesn't matter. Like they will find a way to win the court case. So I'll do it carefully. But what I want to talk about today mostly is because this is actually a typical contract, okay? And I obviously can't show it to you, okay? I'm looking at it, but I can't share it, okay? But what I'll do though is that in the edit later, I will put some text here at the bottom, which will explain specifically what I'm talking about right now. So if I'm talking about like teaching hours, then there will be a text here saying teaching hours or something like that. Okay, so let's go from the beginning. And this was a school, it's kind of like near Tokyo, let's say, but it's not in Tokyo. So I know that in Tokyo they actually pay a bit more. These guys paid less, okay? Um, Not sure what the rationale is, but you have to. One thing I will actually start with by talking about very quickly here is the salaries in Japan. I think there's this kind of illusion, maybe, or myth, that Japanese live like really well and they're rich and blah, blah, blah. That is not the case. The kind of median salary, I guess, you'll be lucky to fall into maybe 250,000 yen a month, okay? And because the yen is weak right now, that's under $2,000. Well, you can make the conversion yourself, but I mean that's under 2,000, I think. I'm pretty sure. Uh so when I came here in 2012, the yen was actually stronger, okay? So I was actually making like more, probably like yeah, around 2,000 or even more, a little bit more than that. But now, because it's so devalued, because there's inflation and et cetera, it's worth less than that. So again, you have to be aware of that before you come here. You have to do your research, people. You can't just come here and it's going to be like a nasty surprise, because you expect one thing and it's completely something else, right? So that's one thing I will start with, that the salaries are not very high. And definitely like for teachers, the job of like teacher is like kind of one of the bottom jobs here. I know it shouldn't be. I completely disagree with that, okay? I think teachers should be paid more because it is such a essential job, and it's just not valued. It's just not. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm going to go through the contract, and if I see something kind of dodgy, then I will stop and talk about it. Well, it kind of starts badly already because the first part here, it says salary, and I'll just kind of read that part. It says the teacher will be paid a basic salary of 230,000 yen a month. Okay, so that's what I was making. Well, okay, it goes on actually. So the first 4 months are what they call a trial term. So this is actually bullshit. I mean, look, if you are starting out, like if that's your first gig or whatever, then I can understand. Like they need to put you on a trial period, and see how you do, And if you do well, then sure, they keep you on and they increase your salary. However, when I came here, I already had like almost, I would say, like very, very close to 2 years of classroom experience, like full time jobs. Um, you know, sure, there were a couple of private lessons here and there, but for the majority, these were like classes with at least, I would say, at least 6 students. Okay, so yeah, kind of 6 or even 8 minimum, depending on the class. So again, I understand if you're starting out, if that's your first job and you're just getting started into your teaching career, but in my case, I already had experience. So this is basically just an excuse to pay people less for about 4 months. That's it. That's basically it. It's bullshit. It's a it's a heist, and they shouldn't do that. The salary is oh yeah, so that's what they mentioned. Yeah, the salary is less for the first 4 months. When the teacher completes the contract without breaking it, there's 40,000 yen will be paid with the last salary. If the teacher has less than 22.5-hour teaching time a week for regular students, the teacher will have a part-time position for the week with a salary of 2,000 yen per hour. Uh, this is really fucking low, by the way. 2,000. I mean, that's kind of like very like borderline uh kind of slavery wage, like what do you call it? Like minimum wage. There are certain places here, like for example, GABA. It's kind of like a big school, like not a school. It's actually not a school. It's just like a company that organizes lessons, and they pay even less than that. So it's true that the lesson time usually is a bit less than those guys. So maybe it kind of evens out in the end, but yeah, they just don't pay. I'll tell you now what I charge as a private teacher. Well, when I started, I was charging 2,500, but then because the yen got weaker, etc., I went up to 3,000, and now actually for pretty much anybody who starts with me fresh, it's 3,500 yen per hour. Because again, I have a lot of experience now. I have almost 7 years of experience. I don't think that merits a minimum wage anymore. So, yeah, so you can see basically the difference here. Holiday salary will be paid with the last month's salary if the teacher completes the contract without breaking it. Holiday salary for 1 week, monthly salary divided by 4. Um, this is some heavy math shit here. Income tax and worker part of workers' insurance are taken from the salary. Well, okay, that's fine. I don't have a complaint with that part. There's details about when they pay, which it's not really important. But the next part is interesting. So, teaching hours. The teacher must work from Tuesday to Saturday. Yep, that indeed was my schedule. So Sundays and Mondays were off. Um, Tuesdays, I think Tuesday to Friday was from, I believe, 1:30, or was it actually 2 p.m.? I think it was from 2 to 10, actually. Yeah. Um, that schedule sucks, by the way. I mean, because like most people, they work for in the morning, and they finish like 5 or 6 p.m. or something like that. But you're stuck there until 10. Okay, so by the time you come home, well, if you can get home quickly, it's probably like 10:30. uh your entire kind of day is broken, so you can't like meet anybody, and yeah, it's just a complete disaster. Saturday, though, I believe was from the first class, I believe, was from, yeah, 9:30 to 5, 5, maybe 5 or something like that, because it was a bit of a shorter shift, usually just a bit. But you get like no lunchtime, though. No lunchtime whatsoever. This is not part of it whatsoever. So again, probably depends on company to company, but just be aware that some of them are they don't give you any kind of break time whatsoever. So the teacher must work from Tuesday to Saturday, 40 hours stay, and 30 hours teaching a week. So that means basically like there's 30 hours of teaching, that's minimum, and 40 hour stay. It means that basically you have to stay like in the place for 40 hours. You can't just like kind of wander around, or that's what I've said. Like they don't give you any kind of lunchtime. You can't like go out and eat and come back. Uh, like in Korea, I had that actually. In Korea, we had lunchtime, and in both companies I worked at. But in this company, nope. Overtime, this is another one of a major bullshit points about Japan, is that the overtime. So I'll read it first and then I'll comment. So overtime will be calculated every 5 minutes at 2,000 yen an hour if the teacher has more than 30 teaching hours a week. If the teacher has his or her own makeup classes, the makeup class time can't be counted for the original work time. Okay, so what that means is that basically the makeup classes, they are they are not counted. They, because they are already kind of counted, maybe even not for you, because maybe it's another teacher who took care of it. But even if you take care of it later, you don't get anything like bonus from that at all. But the thing about overtime, and I can tell you that definitely a couple of times I had overtime, because what happens sometimes is that after my work schedule, there is some kind of weirdo student that comes at the very end, when the doors are closing, and they say, like, I heard about this place, blah, blah, I'm interested, and I would like to have a trial class. So, what they do in that case is that they don't schedule it for the future, you see? They will schedule it right now. So, your schedule is already done. You might already have started changing, etc. And then your boss comes up to you and says, "Oh, JC, like, sorry, there's like a trial student, and you have to do it right now," and they don't fucking pay for that. And this is, I know many many instances in Japan where they just don't respect overtime. And actually, while I'm on this topic of respect, I will just say that in Japan, they don't respect contracts in general. This is completely different mentality from somewhere like in the States or Canada or whatever. Like, there you have like a real contract, and like employers and employees both have to follow it. But in Japan, it's just like a kind of reference paper, but really, like, they can wipe their ass with it. And overtime is one of those things that it's they always find some kind of way to basically not pay you, like, ever. And I know that also, like, in the case of like some nurses and doctors, and for them it's not just like 5 or 10 minutes overtime. Sometimes it's like a couple of hours of overtime every day, and they don't get fucking paid for that, not even like 1 yen. So it's a real issue here. Like, when you hear about that, maybe like in YouTube videos, you might say like, these people are just kind of bullshitting and it's not real. It's real. It's fucking real. Trust me. It's absolutely 100% real. All right, so that's about overtime. The next one is also a bit interesting. It talks about administration days. So this one, again, I'll read it and then I'll comment. So it says 8 administration days are in a year. One administrate one administration days has 6 hours. Okay, so if the teacher can't complete the administration days before the end of his contract, the number of hours the teacher didn't finish times so the salary divided by 20 divided by 6. Again, that's some kind of heavy math shit right there. Who came up with this crap? Will be taken from the last salary. Those administration hours can be done separately. For example, 3 hours times 16 times. Okay. Actually, to be honest with you, I don't even know what the fuck that is. I don't know, because I've never done any. I haven't done like even one administrative hour, so I don't know what that is. But I'll tell you what I think it means, because I have friends here who are teachers as well, who are still teachers. And basically, what they say is, well, there are some days where apparently you are supposed to come in, and there's nobody there, by the way, it's just you. And you're supposed to do like something, but what exactly is never defined. Because in a lot of cases, actually, you don't speak the language, okay? So you don't speak like Japanese, or like, well, in Korea they don't have this bullshit. In China they also don't have this crap. It's just in Japan. uh so most likely, like, you don't speak the language, so you can't answer the phone calls or whatever. So I'm not exactly sure what you're supposed to do once you go into the office. Like, you just sit there and stare at the ceiling, and maybe, okay, maybe you can clean up, but that's gonna take what, like half an hour tops or something. And then what are you gonna do after that? So yeah, but I also heard some horror stories about that. Some people uh traveled in some heavy snow conditions in winter, they come to the company and they find that it's just completely like locked down. Like, of course, because it's like holiday period usually. There's nobody there. The lights are out. There is an actual physical lock on the door. There's no key to open that door. There's nothing. So you basically made the trip for absolutely fucking nothing. And so why they have this bullshit? Look, you have to ask them. I'm not the one who writes contracts here, but this is probably some kind of ancient stuff that maybe was, existed like, I don't know, 30, 40 years ago. And nobody even knows what it is anymore. But because, like, again, the contracts are just reference papers, nobody really updates them anymore. So it's just kind of copy pasted from all these years ago. And so these kind of ancient archaic things are never removed. And so that's why it's here. Holidays. The teacher can have holidays. Okay, so that's pretty much for page one. So this is just page one, by the way. You think I'm done? Not at all. But this is just the first page, guys. And already there are so many issues. So many issues. Okay, so then it talks about sick leave. Okay, this one is also very, very interesting. So again, I think this depends on company to company. I'm fairly sure that this is not always like that, okay? But I think these guys are just weirdos, and the way that they wrote the contract is just bizarre. I actually think it's illegal what they're doing. I actually really do believe that. I don't know how they get away with it. Maybe because, like, obviously the teachers are not like rich people, so they're not gonna go ahead and hire a lawyer to look at it. But I actually could do that. I mean, now I definitely have the means, and I do have a personal lawyer actually. So maybe like this is something worth looking into, because this contract is just very, very legal, I think, and they get away with as much as possible. They go to that kind of line, and maybe they don't quite cross it. I don't know, because again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know like what the employment laws are in Japan, really. But I think, to me anyway, it sounds like they really went to that very, very limit. So, sick leave. It says here, if you're sick, you have to call them. That's fine. Um, you have to call them though between 8 a.m. and 8:30 a.m. So I understand that, because they need some time to maybe find a replacement teacher. They have a few people who are kind of around and they can contact them, like, hey, we need you like for like an hour or 2 hours or something, or maybe for the whole day. Um, the problem is though, the classes usually start at 2. So usually if my class started at 2, I would probably wake up at like, I don't know, like 11:30 or 12, right? Because again, remember that you finish late. So you come home late as well, and by the time you finish your dinner, it's probably midnight already, and then you probably have to, you want to check your social networks, etc., etc. So anyway, by the time you're done with all of that, it's probably like 2 or 3 already, right? So if you want to sleep your 8 hours, that means you are going to wake up around 11:30 or even like 12, right? So if I'm sick, I also want to sleep longer, because sleep is good for the body. But they say that you have to wake up early and call them, right? So I don't know. For me, that's just a bit iffy, but it's not the worst part about this whole thing, to be honest. If the workday has morning classes at least 2 hours before the first class, so that means like on Saturdays, because you start earlier, you basically have to call them like between 6 or, yeah, or like basically 6 a.m. or something. Wow. This is, I think, like the next part here. This is, I believe, absolutely illegal. Again, I don't know Japanese labor laws, but to me, it sounds really, really fucking illegal. It says sick leave has to be covered by the teacher. When the teacher has one sick leave day, 11,500 yen, which is a lot of money, by the way, will be taken. Then 80% of the original salary will be provided after the teacher covers all the lessons or another day when students can't come. Those classes are called makeup classes. Okay, the problem is, though, there is no time in the schedule to do that. Okay, and they know that, but they still put it there as a kind of like, well, actually, you know what, we'll pay you. It doesn't look, it's okay, we'll still pay you as long as you can make up those classes. But the problem is you can't. You see what I mean? This is bullshit. Like, this is absolutely bullshit. You'll never have a chance to make up these classes because the students are not available. uh you are not available. There's just no time in the schedule. Anyway, one way or another, trust me, that's not happening. So basically they will just take your money. I really don't think this is legal. I really doubt it. I know that obviously some companies can do that, but I think it's illegal. Like, they should not take the salary just because you're sick. You're not sick on purpose. Like, this is not your fault, you know? When I was sick in Korea, actually, like, I think pretty early on when I started at my second place, I got a very bad case of tonsillitis, and I actually lost my voice for like, I think 3 days. So every day, like the my boss or his assistant would call me and try to ask me on the phone like how I'm doing, but of course, you know, my voice was is gone, so I can just kind of whisper, maybe like it's still not there yet. But they paid me for that because, like, again, it's not my fault. Yeah, I know that. I know that I can't take care of the classes, and that sucks. But it's not my fault that I was sick. In fact, actually, I would argue that it's the school's fault for making me sick, because what happens a lot of the time is that, especially like in Asia, the parents are fucking nuts here. Their kids, like, they just send their sick kids to school. Like, here's the sick bomb, let's just drop it into the school, let it infect everybody in the classroom, and that's fine. God forbid they miss one class. This is a mentality that I never understood. If you watch my previous videos about teaching, I already talked about that at great length, so please probably go and watch those. But this is absolutely like ridiculous mentality that Asian people have, especially Asian, I would say, because like, um, this just didn't happen when I was a student in Europe, for example. Like, if somebody's sick, they're sick, they stay home, and period. You know, there's no like if buts, what ifs. No, you just stay the fuck home, you get better, and then you come back. But in Asia, it's like these fucking paranoid parents here, they're so afraid that they think like just missing one class is like a difference between life and death. It's absolutely bizarre to me. But yeah, anyway, um, it says also here, phone calls are and cover classes are the same as okay with 60. When a teacher has a train delay, 100% of the salary will be provided. Teacher needs to provide the proof of the delay. Okay, that's not very interesting, actually, this part in particular. The teacher has some training days. The teacher doesn't get paid on training days, but train transport is paid. Well, that part is not like so uncommon. I've had training before, even in Korea, and that wasn't paid for. It's usually not long anyway, so I don't know, it's just a couple of days really, so it's not like a big deal. I think in China I was paid, though, I'm pretty sure, because in China it just happened like during the regular week. I was just one day I was not teaching. Instead of that, I had to go to town, and couple of days of training, which was not even training anyway, because like I said, I already had experience. This training is designed for absolute beginners who have no experience in classrooms whatsoever. But in my case, it was not really training. we actually ended up talking about Freelancer a lot of the time, not the crappy, scammy website, but I'm talking about the game Freelancer on the computer. Cool game, by the way. But that's basically that was my training. Cool, huh? Yeah. All right. So it says here, responsibilities of the teacher. The teacher is required to arrive at least 20 minutes before the first class. If the teacher is late for classes 3 times, what? This is bizarre. This doesn't make even any like grammatical sense. It says the teacher is required to arrive at least 20 minutes before the first class of the day. Okay, that's fine. If the teacher is late for classes 3 times, after that should arrive 30 minutes before the first class. Okay, like actually I do get it now, but it's just worded very badly. Sorry, there's a stupid speaker truck outside. The teacher is responsible for having the school system classes and providing the students professional service and attitude. Okay, that's pretty much okay. If the student comes to school for a level check without an appointment, even it is at the end of the day, the teacher should be friendly. Uh, yeah, sure. But the thing is, like, that's considered overtime, which they don't fucking pay. That's what I mentioned before. Sure, you can be friendly. I mean, I was pretty pissed when that happened, you know. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Because your shift is over, and you just have to go home, but somebody suddenly shows up. So, okay. The teacher is responsible to be prepared. Well, that's okay. And tidying up and cleaning up classrooms and teacher students area at the beginning and end of every day. Okay, so that part, this is something that is very specific to Japan, I think, because I never had that in Korea. I never had that in China. This is something very Japanese, because yeah, the employees in Japan are kind of slaves, really. They have to do a lot of extra shit, you know, like usually like you don't do that. There's some kind of janitor usually that does it for you, but in Japan it's like you. Sometimes it's the students. Well, the students, like, that's if you're in a public school. This is not a public school contract. This is a private English school contract. Okay, so yeah, in public schools, I know that the students often clean the classrooms. They also clean the hallways. This is often portrayed in anime as well. I'm sure you've seen some of these, or maybe like Japanese movies about high school, etc. It's true that it happens because they want to teach their students like responsibility. Like, you messed up the place and you have to clean it up, you know, and that makes sense. I wish like more countries actually had that. Um, but yeah, in Japan, like, just be aware that you have to do that. Okay, so like just don't be surprised if they ask you to do that because you're the janitor as well. All right, page 3. Uh, the teacher has to wear a shirt and tie in class for adult classes and is shaven. But obviously, like, if that's the case, that's also the case for kids as well. And I often find it very fucking weird. And you know, there's even like many videos on you can find online, of like teachers in Japan working with kids, and they are wearing like a full kind of business attire with a necktie, etc., etc. It's just weird. Like, it's just weird. Like, even when I was in high school, my high school is considered still the best in Switzerland. Okay, but even then, like, the teachers didn't wear a suit and a tie. They wore like business casual, you know, they dressed up well, but it was not a fucking suit and a tie. Like, this is an obsession in Japan. They are obsessed, absolutely obsessed with suits and ties. It's a great business. Look, it's a great fucking business. It's a business that really shouldn't exist because it only exists because like companies like that they force their employees to buy suits. If that was not the case, I can guarantee you that we would not need like 90% of suits and ties, etc. Just not needed. Like nobody needs this shit. It's too fucking formal. Like you have to you have to let go a little bit, you know? Like you can look, you can still be professional and dress up like business casual. Of course, if you show up, look, I get it. Like if you show up to school and you're wearing some kind of shirt with like a skull and there's like daggers sticking out and like blood pouring out of the fucking eye sockets, then yeah, that's probably not a good idea. Probably not. But if you're just wearing like business casual, like a kind of nice shirt or just a nice sweater or something, because sometimes it gets cold, right? I really, really don't see any issue with that whatsoever. But they do. They think like if you wear a shirt and a tie, you're automatically this kind of amazing teacher or something. And also, why do you have to shave? Again, like what does that have to do with your teaching ability? So if I shave, does that make me a better teacher? What kind of fucking ass backwards shit is that? I don't know. But like, yeah, in Japan, the coolest people you meet on the street or whatever is the people who are not shaven. These are the coolest people you'll ever meet in Japan, trust me. All right, next one. The teacher, obviously, like private information should not be uh, shared, but it says like it's discouraged. Like, let me see here. Oh, it says about that's about socializing. Socializing with students outside the classroom is discouraged. Discouraged, but not prohibited. I actually had a great experience in Korea with that because I had a kind of good relationship with some of the like the parents actually, and they sometimes took me out for lunch. Well, one when I was leaving, they took me out for lunch once. Well, actually, also one of them invited me for lunch once, so that was actually two times. Uh, and there was another adult student who just took me out for a coffee outside of just outside of the school. So that happened and that was cool and that builds kind of relationships. Like if students see you outside of the classroom environment, they can relate to you better because obviously like outside of the classroom you're a bit more free so you can talk a bit more and that creates connections and they're very very important, I think. So uh, sure, discouraged, they say here in the contract, but not prohibited. When the teacher is given presents by students, for example, a souvenir, she should tell the director the situation. The school will tell the students the appreciation for the present. The week after, the teacher in the school will give a thank you letter to the student. Well, um, that's okay. I mean, I don't really have a problem with that in particular. I had one student in particular who was kind of crazy about that. She gave me presents, I think, every week or something, or every 2 weeks or something. It was really, really like coming thick and fast, you know. But I only had her for a month, so didn't get that much. But anyway, you actually also in Japan, according to the culture here, you're supposed to share it with your boss, etc. So it's not just like for you. Although, again, it depends where you are because I know some other people who get gifts and they just take it home. So yeah, I think you have to maybe read the room a little bit there. All right, next one. It says here insurance and city tax. So that one. It says here that you're supposed to maintain your personal health insurance and the city tax. Um, I'm not sure if this is like, let me just quickly have a look ahead here into number four. Nope, it's not in there. So I have to mention it here then about the health insurance. A lot of people, obviously, it's very important for them, and it should be because if you get sick, you have to know what to do, right? You have to know what happens. So it's interesting actually that they don't mention it here whatsoever. It's not even like I'm just maybe I missed it, but no, I'm really reading everything. It is not in here. Okay, that's very interesting. So the way that my insurance worked is that, yeah, they offered a health insurance, but it was related to like the workplace. So, for example, if something happens at work, like if you fall down the stairs, or I don't know, there's a fire, or there's some kind of violence in the classroom or something that you didn't initiate, hopefully, um, then they do cover a bit of it. They also cover you if you go home, but only on that way home. So they even say that to me, like if you on the way home, if you walk into a bar and something happens in that bar, they will not cover that. Okay. Um, I guess that makes sense. I mean, yeah. Uh, but the way that they covered it was, I don't know the percentage that they covered, and also it's not in the fucking contract, so I can't even tell you how much it was because it's not in there. But I know there was something for sure. I just don't know what it was, and it's not in the contract. So I I guess I should have read that more carefully even when I before I signed this thing. Outside employment is forbidden. Obviously, you should not do that while you're under contract. Uh, the teacher can't teach students of the school any lessons outside of the school. Well, okay, that's still the same thing. But I think like if you're just teaching in private, I think that's fine. I mean, if you're just teaching on something like italki or preply, I think that's probably okay, I would say, but you probably have to confirm with them because the thing is like they are the ones who deal with your taxes, and so if you make more money, that has to be declared somehow. And I don't know, maybe they just don't want to deal with that, but you have to confirm that with them. Termination of a contract, you're supposed to give them a 10-week written notice. So that's basically almost kind of 3 months. It's 2.5 months basically. I think that's kind of fair because, a lot of the times they have to find teachers who are not here. They have to find teachers who come from abroad, and they have to apply for the visa, and that can take time. Especially like, some people don't even have a passport. So they have to start with getting a passport and then they apply for the visa, etc., etc., etc. There's like a lot of background checks that you have to do. So I understand that. Usually, though, I would say it's just 1 month, but again, it depends on the school, obviously. Next one, events. The school will have parties, for example, New Year, summer, Halloween, Christmas. On an administration day, the teacher will have to provide special classes, for example, cultural classes, day trips, or new students, special trial classes, etc. Yeah, that's true. This again depends on the school. I'm pretty sure that every school is different, but my school, yeah, they had some events. Definitely, I remember Halloween. They were baking cookies or something. Was there another one? I don't remember. I don't. Well, I was only there for like less than a year, so I think the only one I had was Halloween. I don't think we had Christmas. Because everybody was just tired, especially that year. So I think we just wanted to go home and not do a stupid party. Yeah, so what it is that there's a group of select students that comes in, maybe like maybe 8 people or something. It's not big usually. It's not huge. Uh, Usually you're not alone either. It's usually you and maybe another teacher, probably the boss as well, or some kind of assistant is there. And yeah, you just do like activity. It's pretty boring, but it's mostly for the kids. But it is pretty boring though. Yeah. Apartment. The teacher will have an apartment from a real estate which the school introduce her. The teacher pays for the rent and can't have a roommate. Whoa, okay. I didn't even know about that. I mean, I didn't have a roommate, but I didn't actually know about this specific rule. Um, the school can be a guarantor. So that's actually, if you want to rent, I think, your apartment here, you need there's some complicated rules here about that. This the thing about the apartment though is that, yeah, about the rent. You pay the rent in Japan. This is completely different from Korea and China, because over there they will take care of that for you. So like in Korea, I had a nice apartment in Seoul. I had a pretty nice place in where was it? Ah, Hangzhou is the Chinese one. Guangzhou. That's where it was. And then in China, I had like a pretty decent place as well, near Hangzhou actually. So yeah, and the rent was like 100% covered by the company. It never like comes up. It's never mentioned. It's just covered by the company. Period. But here in Japan, you have to pay for the rent. You have to pay for the all utilities, of course, and your salary just gets less and less and less and less. Okay, so that's what happens here. You have to be aware of that. And finally, we reach the final page. It's pretty short. It's just basically ground for termination. Um, if the teacher fails to appear for scheduled classes without prior approval of the manager of the school, well, obviously, yeah, if you don't go to work, it's never good. The teacher engages in outside employment. So again, I would just, I get it that they don't want you to work for another company. However, maybe if you teach online, maybe that's acceptable, but you have to make sure about that with them, because maybe they will say no, and then you can't like do anything, right? Because unfortunately, you have to declare your taxes. I mean, you could work outside, but you have to declare your taxes. And when that moment comes, that's when you'll be screwed, okay? Misuse or abuse of the school property. Well, obviously, yeah, if you burn down the school, that's never good. Any other activity or omission that constitutes a violation of any terms of contract, okay? The teacher continues to act in a way not considered in the best interest of the school after verbal warning from the director of the school. Okay, so yeah, you get like probably like a one warning, maybe two warnings, and then you're out. And period of contract, it's basically for like 1 year with training days. They say here it's actually for 1 week, but in my case, it was really not. It was, I don't know. It was like maybe 2 days or something like that. Yeah, it was really, really short. It was just, I think it was actually 1 day only. Yeah, I think it was just 1 day. Anyway, guys, so that's, I would say, a pretty typical contract. Obviously, like every place has their own, okay? So you can't use this as a kind of, you know, um, one shoe fits all solution, but this is a pretty good reference, I think, and definitely refer to this video if you come teach in Japan, and make sure to read your contract, because they are very, very sneaky. And like I said, they will try to find a way to weasel out of paying overtime, healthcare, etc., etc. So you have to make sure that you read your contract. If you have any questions, make sure you confirm it with them. But also, at the end of the day, you have to remember that in Japan, the contracts are basically just pieces of paper. If they wanna kind of go around it, they can, and they will. And if they really kind of start breaking it big time, then I probably recommend seeking a lawyer. But that's, if you can afford losing that job. Like if you have like another job already lined up, and if you think that the one you just had was like illegal or something, because there's a lot of black companies in Japan, there are, then maybe it's worth looking into getting a lawyer so that he can look at it. Anyway, that's it for the video. Thanks so much for watching. I know it's a bit long, but I hope that you got a lot out of it. And I'll be back in the future for more videos. So stay tuned. And for now, I will say goodbye. And do check out all the links in my description. There's a lot of cool stuff there, especially the music project right now. There's a lot of activity, I would say. So do check out the website, bookmark it, because there's a lot of cool stuff coming. Probably like I would say within the next month. So yeah, stay tuned. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.